What's up, Neil?
Hey, Cal. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How you doing?
Wonderful, thanks.
Good. So here we are, Season 2, Episode 16. It's kind of crazy that we're that deep in already, right?
I can't even believe it. Say it every time, though.
I know, every time. We said that like the 4th episode of Season 1. Can't believe we made it. Well, I would say we probably got one of our most special guests we've had on so far.
Special, wow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Special ed or special enjoyment? That's the big question.
Special enjoyment.
Gio Gentile, welcome.
All right.
All the way from Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
And
I don't have an accent, do I?
Maybe a little bit of Italian Texas in there.
Italian Texas, yeah.
We'll call it that.
Spaghetti tacos accent. There you go.
You might be onto something there.
Might be. Could be back in Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been talking for quite a while.
We have. We have.
We've known each other, over 30 years.
Mid-80s, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, forever. Obviously, growing up, playing soccer. We've talked about it on this show before, Neil. 72 Vardar team.
Yeah, it's a funny story how that all started, right? So Vardar started in 1980, what would it have been? 1982.
Okay.
So we had Dominic Vella and Anthony Vella. The Vellas lived across the street from us in Livonia off of Riverside Drive in Schoolcraft.
Yep.
And their dad was a goalkeeper.
Really?
And they moved in, So they moved in, and they were playing soccer outside. So my brother and I started going over there and playing soccer with them, and they ended up playing soccer at the Livonia YMCA. So we ended up joining with them, right? So we were playing with the Y, and I think there was Dave Heberstreet and James Shyrock and a couple of others I remember from looking at old pictures. And then we were playing, and I always heard about the advanced leagues, right? The Bonanza League. I always wanted that banana yellow jacket.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Right? And then Rich and Lynn Sawicki ended up recruiting us from the Livonia YMCA and made 2 indoor teams at Square Lake way back in the day. And it was the West Side Kids. So we were the 72s, were formerly called the West Side Kids. And my brother Mike's team, which just he was 74, but they were playing 73, were called Evzone's Miracle Mile Kids, which was a sandwich shop or something like that. So we ended up playing indoor for like a season or two. And then that's how Vardar ended up starting. And our first coach was Alex Nikolavsky, a guy from Yugoslavia. And then ZR was my brother's coach. The 73s ended up becoming 72s or 74s, right? Yep. And Vardar was started, So Aaron Sawicki, which was Lynn and Rich's son, was there. And then Alex Nikolavsky coached us for a little while. And then Morris came along. They found Morris, right? So, and Morris started. I remember the Dave Dingley.
Yes,
his dad was the first president. My mom was the treasurer. And I remember them saying, it's going to be $200 to play for the year. My mom was like, oh, my God, that's ridiculous.
Right?
And think about how far it's come, right? Now take that and multiply it by 1,000 or 100, you know what I mean? So
crazy.
To $3,000-$4,000 to play, right? So that's the origination of Vardar and how it started, right? So Morris ended up taking it in the 72s. We were together for quite a while.
And Justin Dunkel was on that.
Justin Dunkel, Jason Reese, Chris Williams, Brady Erickson, Chris Muso.
Yeah.
A lot of originals. What's that? Noel Corwin, and then later on you got Noel Corwin, Scott Weiger, those guys, Malai, Dominic Cicluna. We had that infamous pyramid picture.
Yes.
Of the 72s.
I actually posted that.
Did you? That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great picture. Morris obviously has a great personality for it, right? I remember one time we were practicing and Morris was all cocky and Dominic was all cocky, so they wrestled. So because Dominic was a big wrestler, right? They're wrestling at Whitman over in Livonia. And then all of a sudden we're like, where's Morris? We look at his car, and his car is fogged up. He was in there. He's like almost had a heart attack because he was trying to wrestle Dominic Cicluna, right? So a lot of great characters there, man. A lot of great characters.
Well, we ended up playing for Morris at UAD.
Right.
And that's funny because I remember one time he challenged Emily Blackwell to a tennis match.
That's
Tim
awesome.
Blackwell.
Yeah.
Amy Snyder at the time. And he was out there trying, just huffing and puffing. It was so funny. So, it doesn't change.
No, it doesn't change. That team had a bunch of characters, right? We were scrapping all the time, getting in fights and all that. And I would just kind of sit there because I'm not a fighter. Mm-hmm. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But it's still all part of the balance that was that team, right? And it was just an amazing experience. We used to go to tournaments. Chris Williams and Jason Reese's parents had vans. So we would show up with Van Halen blaring and coming out of the van playing Van Halen, right? So that's one of my first forays into music, right? Is just listening to all that. Because when I grew up, my parents listened to Engelbert Humperdinck and Tom Jones and all that, which I loved, by the way, because I listened to it.
I actually remember that.
8 tracks.
I remember being in a car with you or something.
Yeah.
It was like tapes or something. Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yeah, they had tapes. They had 8 tracks, the gold Grand Marquis, and we'd listen to that, and it was just it's an amazing time because music is. It touches you emotionally, right? It brings you back, and that's the reason why I love music, is because you're always listening to it, and it always invokes some sort of emotion in you, right? So I have playlists. I call that one soft soap because it's soft music and soap opera. So I call it soft soap as my playlist on Spotify, and it's all that stuff, right? It's way back Daryl Hall and John Oates. I mean, it's all those great songs, and Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, a lot of the stuff that I love to listen to. So it really opened me up to some music, but then it wasn't until I got into college, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. But that's where my music really started to develop. But yeah, the Vardar years were fantastic, right? I just didn't really enjoy it.
Oh, it's great. And I remember, because I'm a few years younger than you, and then Neil is a couple years younger than me. So I remember seeing you guys play, and Paul was on the Raiders.
Yeah, right. I remember that, yeah.
When Al Bonanza first started, so he had the yellow jacket, and I remember, man,
so
I can't
jealous.
wait till I can do that one. Right. And but yeah, it was like we looked up to you, and you guys would just go out there and just dominate too.
Some ballers, some ballers. They put a great team. I think the greatest thing Morris Lupinick ever said to me was, if you don't lay the lumber, you're going to sit the lumber. And that's what set the tone, right? I mean, there was a bunch of badasses that went out there and played and could play well, but also could hit.
That's what you were mentioning earlier. You had a bunch of badass dudes on your team, but you were also really fucking good too.
Skilled, refined. It was a great team. I mean, we had modest success. I mean, there's teams that have gone on after us that have done probably better. I mean, we've won a couple of indoor national championships. We were U16 champions as a U15 team. And then the next year we ended up losing in the second round, I think, to Kalamazoo, right? So we were a little too cocky, and that brought us back down, right? But
Gazelle TKO.
Yeah, Gazelle TKO. That's right.
Knock you out.
But back then, did you have like an outdoor national championship?
They did, yeah. They had regionals, and Midwest regionals.
Same thing. Okay.
Same thing. Yeah, Midwest regionals and then nationals.
If I remember, it was only 14, 16, and 19.
Correct. It was the even years. That's correct.
They didn't have the 12, and they didn't have the in between 16
That's right.
and 19.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's why we played up a year. We ended up playing up a year. Yeah. So we ended up beating Vardar 71s that year. So that was a big accomplishment.
Because I posted that pyramid picture, and there was some chatter going on about that.
Oh yeah.
What about the year when we played up and won?
Yeah. and then we forgot about the year we actually played our own age and lost.
Right. Exactly.
The universe will bring you down when it needs to. It'll course correct.
100%.
For sure.
So yeah, all those young days, and then we ended up in high school together.
Yeah, Churchill High School. Yeah, and I remember my freshman year, Morris saying that he didn't want us to play varsity, so we were all pissed off, right? Because we thought how fun would it be to play with our friends and all that. And he's like, nope, you guys are playing club, so we ended up not playing our freshman year.
I remember that. Justin brought that up.
Yeah, that's right.
I forgot all about that. So then you started playing your sophomore year, and some of those games, watching you guys play, because Paul being on the team as well. And then eventually I was on JV my freshman year, so I'd sit and watch those. It was just awesome.
Yeah, it was a great team, great players. Our coach, John Neff, was always interesting.
John Neff, oh yeah.
He told me one time, he said, basketball is really my game. And I looked at him, I'm like, why are you coaching the soccer team then, bro? But he would do the 11-man sub. He would do the 3-man we. We'd dribble the lines on the soccer field, on the football field, right? So it was nice guy, but not state championship coaching material, unfortunately, right? And we always had our challenges against Stevenson. We always got unlucky there. We had a good team. I think our senior year we were 14th in the nation or something like that.
In that last game, against Stevenson, that went to the shootout.
Man, that was.
You guys had, I believe, homecoming that night.
We did, yeah. We were crying in the parking lot. Man. We were so upset, right? We were up 2-0.
Oh yeah,
Brady Erickson has scored 2 goals,
Yes.
and then they put him back on defense.
Yes.
I'm like, why? He's on
He did.
fire
He
right
scored
now,
like
right?
2 goals in the first.
Then I had a
15
PK,
minutes.
and Jerry Smolinski saves it, and then we go to a shootout, and I end up making my PK in the shootout. My brother ends up missing in the shootout. Yeah, we were devastated.
And the one thing I'll always remember about that game is the highlight tape that Mary Geese made.
Oh yeah,
Remember
oh,
that
yeah,
thing?
oh yeah.
If Here Comes John,
Yeah.
with his Dire Straits. That song. She had the background. I'm like, oh my god, how did she make this? This is amazing. And look at us now. We're on this,
the early days of editing.
Now we're on this huge podcast, making it happen. It's amazing how far we come.
It is, but a lot of great players, a lot of great friendships. High school soccer was still fun. But that whole soccer scene, I mean, the majority of my friend base is from soccer.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, well, Neil's sitting here with me, and I mean, a lot of the guests we've had on.
That's right.
And it's funny, just somehow it seems like soccer or sports correlates back to music somehow.
It does, right? It does. You listen, like I said, when I first went into college, so I ended up going to OU.
Yep.
At the time, I was like, well, do I want to go Division I, Division II? But we had a lot of our players. So Jason Reese initially was going to go to Oakland, and he ended up transferring over to EMU.
Western, I thought.
Oh, Western. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, Western. And then, but we had Dominic Cicluna, we had Mike Sheehy, myself, Malai Walton.
Lamar ended up coming.
Lamar ended up coming over, right? So we had a very good team.
Will
Bothy, yeah. So we had a lot of great players, and it was a great team, great environment.
Which Division I, Division II. I mean, you guys were knocking off Division I teams left and right.
We were, yeah. I think your top 5 Division II teams are probably your top 25 Division I teams, right? So competitive enough, right?
And you guys were, I mean, going. You made the Final Four.
Made the Final Four my sophomore year, and then I redshirted my senior year. So my 5th year, we ended up going to the finals.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, we lost to Tampa in the finals in overtime, but we went pretty far.
Some awesome teams, and just tying it back, another quick shout out to Morris.
Because Morris was the assistant coach there.
And he played there.
And he played there, right?
And
I remember
he was assistant coach. So a lot of that talent from the Vardar teams and local
sure.
kind of migrated there. You had Gary Parsons.
Good coach. Yeah, I mean they pushed us, right? We would be running the stairs that used to have
Morris
at OU.
Came over to UAD.
That's right.
The year before I went there.
Yeah, right.
So he came in 92. I went in 93, which was your redshirt year. Very first college game I ever played was at Oakland.
Yeah.
A ton of people were there because it was Oakland, UAD, Morris.
That was always a rivalry, right?
And we ended up winning 1-0.
Nice.
Johnny T scored the game winner, John Truskowski.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that's the year I redshirted.
You did.
Yeah.
So you didn't play, and then we played.
I was telling you that's the reason why you guys won.
Well, and then I started thinking about it. Actually, it's probably why we didn't win by more.
Yeah, right. I enjoyed that. I mean, I had offers to go elsewhere, and I just didn't. I didn't want to leave.
And that set the tone.
Yeah,
away for the whole college thing.
Sure,
it's a whole different ball game.
It's a whole different ball game. I remember rooming with Mike Sheehy, right? So Mike Sheehy having the Led Zeppelin box set, he would just play it constantly.
Nice.
And I would listen to it almost in my sleep. We'd fall asleep to it, and then I just fell in love with Led Zeppelin. And they're, number one of my favorite, forever fives.
Oh, nice.
So, we'll sprinkle them in throughout the session.
Yeah, I like it.
That one was,
this guy's done this shit before.
Was huge for me, right? I'm just a big Jimmy Page fan, and when I first started playing guitar, it was right around that time that I redshirted.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
I did want to finish up.
Yeah, let's go back. Sure.
No, just one last thing, because I did want to, the following year we played at UAD.
Yeah.
And you got the best of us 3-1, but I did get the best of you that day when I saved your PK.
See, I don't remember that. It's like that memory.
I don't even.
I'm surprised because you recollect a lot of great stuff. I do
because you actually went to my left. You went to my left, and
went to your left. Okay, because I always went to the right.
And I think that's what you probably thought that I thought.
Yeah, because I did that with Smolinski against Stevenson, and he saved it. So
and you know what? I think Jerry was a lot like me in that. Is you have an idea, but you still try to react by something they tell.
Yeah, right.
But you guys did smoke us 3-1, and then you were done after that year.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was the year, and then we ended up going to. So I ended up another funny story with Vardar and that I ended up playing for the North at the Olympic Festival.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So the way it happened was Malai and I got asked to play for the North, right? So. Malai and I said we were both going, and then Mike Lupinik takes Malai and a couple of the guys to the bar and convinces Malai to go play with Vardar because we were playing in the National Indoor Championship. So now I'm left there looking like I'm a selfish player and don't want to play with my club team, right? But it was the best decision because I ended up going. We ended up winning the gold medal. We ended up beating, I think, the West, and Brian McBride was one of our forwards.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He was one of our forwards and a great guy. Really down to earth guy, but he was a phenomenal player.
Yeah, he scored some really
he's
goals too.
Fulham and
at every level. But I mean,
sure. But that was an amazing, amazing experience.
Yeah, that I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
So you were on the north, you said. So
where
was McBride? He went to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was part of the mid. I mean, it was really Midwest, but they called it the North, right? Yeah. They called it the North.
I couldn't remember where he went, but yeah, it was St. Louis.
He was there, yeah, for sure. And there's other players of note that were there. It was a great tournament, great exposure. But something I really enjoyed. I had an experience like that. I got to go to Manchester City and train with the first team there in 90. I think it was 91. Steve Sargent, who was one of our other assistants at OU, had a contact, right? So I went over there and played, and they hated Americans. So I got my ass kicked for 2 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks.
Especially back then.
Oh yeah. They're just 2-footed tackles and zero respect. Eat by yourself. F off, American. Yeah. So I'm like,
nice.
How you doing?
Thanks, Sarge.
Thanks for the experience. But it was a great experience.
Absolutely.
Really, really enjoyed that. So, I have no regrets. Playing at OU and playing Division II, and it would have been nice too. My brother played obviously at Wisconsin. They won the national championship in his senior year, right?
Yeah, we played them.
Did you?
I think it would have been. Might have been that year.
Yeah.
We played a tournament in Milwaukee. So
Okay.
we played Milwaukee and Madison that
Yeah.
weekend. I mean, talk about a slog.
Yeah, right. I mean,
they manhandled us.
They had a great team.
It was like 3-0.
Yeah.
It could have been like 10.
I mean, they had Scott Lamphere, who played with us at Churchill, right?
Yep.
They had Travis Roy, and they had a goalkeeper, Tim Deck, who was a really good player that I played with at the Olympic Festival as well.
Tim was a great goalie.
Tim was a great goalie, right?
I mean, super athletic.
Super athletic, yeah, for sure.
And then Jeff Gold.
And Jeff Gold left the year before.
Yeah.
So he wasn't part of that national championship team, but he was a phenomenal player and a phenomenal guy too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
So many so many great characters and people.
So talking about college, the red shirt, and that's where we'll kind of segue. So was it a knee injury or what?
No, it was a groin injury. So I had ripped my groin.
Oh, those are the worst.
And those are the worst. So I ended up playing that first year, the senior year, my first one for 3 games, and you could only play so many minutes before you could be redshirted. So I played just under the cap. Okay. I think I played 3 games. And I just said, I was wearing a rubber wrap. I mean, it was just super tight and just wasn't healing, right?
I did my groin my sophomore year.
Did you?
And there's nothing you can do to come back from it.
It's the worst.
It takes time, and then you aggravate it, and then, I mean, you're kicking a damn ball.
Right.
I mean, it's like every single thing you use.
Everything comes from there, right?
You roll over when you're trying to sleep.
Sure.
And it's like the worst
thing. Oh, yeah.
It's
like you're getting shot.
Yeah. So you sat that year out. But
so I sat that year out, and I would, I'd be in the training room. So Tom Ford was our trainer. You guys know who Tom Ford is. So Tom Ford was a pretty famous guy at OU. He just passed away recently. He had Luke Erigs.
Actually, no.
Phenomenal soul, right? Phenomenal soul.
I used to see some posts from Eric.
Yeah. So he passed away last summer, and I just happened to be here, so I was able to attend his funeral, and that meant a lot to me because he was such a great guy. So I spent a lot of time in the training room, and one day I was just watching TV, and I saw an ad for a guitar. I'm like, that'd be fun, So I went and bought a cheap ass guitar, and I just, I would sit in front of my apartment, and I knew 2 chords. And I would just sing songs about people walking by, just stupid lyrics, right? Yeah. But that kind of taught me. So I'd bring the guitar to the training room, and I would just play in there, and and we'd have a great time. That was like one of the best years. It's funny, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, sort of thing, right? And I really enjoyed it. So I started playing guitar, and then Robbie Ludwig, which I knew of a drummer named Carl. The infamous Carl, right? So he lived in Fenton, so we would go and we would start jamming there. And there's another bass player named Kiwan from OU that we knew. So we were super young, and I was just barely learning how to play guitar, right? So it was like learning how to play some SDP Plush, Alice in Chains, Man in the Box, those kind of songs, a little bit of Pearl Jam in the beginning, right? So we were we weren't very good for a long time, but
we weren't.
we kind of touched on, but you were like late 80s, graduated 90.
I graduated 90,
93. I mean, that was that huge change in music.
Oh, it was, yeah. It was the Seattle sound. It was grunge.
On the front end of it,
sure.
In high school, where you're getting, some Jane's Addiction, Red Hot Chili Peppers, some of the new wave stuff.
Oh, yeah. That was a great time for music, right?
And then all of a sudden, the Seattle stuff blew up, and then we're in college. I mean, that... To me, there was probably no better time to be.
I agree. It was an overlap of a lot of different genres, right?
From the time you're like 15 to 25, it was just like...
Yeah, I mean, you had great, Motley Crue and the hair bands and all that, the fun party music.
And then you're like sick of it. And then all of a sudden this other stuff shows up.
But that's the beauty of music, right? Is that you have the ability to tap into so many different styles, right? Whatever you feel like. You feel like partying, you put on some Motley Crue, right? Or some Skid Row or whatever. And if you feel like chilling out, then it's, it's more acoustic, if you will, right?
So the four of you guys got together, you're jamming in Fenton. How long before you kind of said, hey, let's just do a show and see what it's like?
Not very long. Probably sooner than we should have. But we started. We would go play in Ypsilanti.
Okay.
A lot of those bars, those small bars there, right? We started to do some shows there.
Okay. Wooden Nickel? Did you ever play Wooden Nickel?
We probably played Wooden Nickel.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, I forget a lot of the names. My memory is terrible, but we played a lot of the shows there, and then we ended up playing it in Industry.
Let's connect. Robbie was...
Yeah, Robbie was at EMU. That's right. He had just finished
stuff,
EMU, so he was living in that area, right? So, he started to book some shows for us, and
he was super fun to go.
Yeah, I mean, and we were kind of like Alice in Chains heavier inspired, called Red Eye. For obvious reasons, yeah.
I was going to let you say it. So, Red Eye was the band.
That was the band,
the four of you got together, you're jamming. So that was the original name from day one?
That was the original name from day one.
First show? That's awesome.
Yeah, I still have a lot of, flyers and set lists and everything that I've got packed away.
All I remember is the red shirt. And it was like the black box.
Yeah, that was the prototype.
Cut out with
that was a prototype.
It was just red with the small
I bought fabric paint, right? The first one I made was just fabric paint, and it was just a black box with the eye cut out, right?
Kind of like our tapestry here.
Yes.
It's quick story on that.
Tell me.
I'm all gung ho.
Yeah.
I finally got all the equipment. We're going to record literally in a couple of days. So it's an old bed sheet. I was in the garage. It's about 10:30 at night.
Best time for creativity.
I had spent the previous 2 hours perfectly trying to draw all of the letters for Two Dudes and Coda Tunes, cut it out, place them on said tapestry, and took a black spray paint.
There you go.
And then just kept going in a big circle.
Were you spiritually guided? I think.
Yes.
Yeah, see?
That was definitely,
get out of your head. You got
definitely. So, quick shout out. This is Matthew McConaughey beer.
Yeah, McConaughey. Yeah, it's a
McConaughey's. I love it.
Down in Austin. Austin's got a pretty good, brewery scene. A lot of good beers down there. There's a brewery called Adalbert's that was fantastic. It was like a Belgian triple, but they went out of business, so we can't get that anymore. But Live Oak is good. The McConaughey's is good. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I painting this thing. It's 10:30 at night. I'm in my garage. It's connected to the house. My phone rings about a half hour later. It's my wife, and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing down there?" I go, "I'm painting my sign."
That's right.
I'm just painting my sign. It's like, "Can you open the garage?"
Yeah.
The whole night had to have the garage all wide open.
Yeah.
Not the best decision, but hey, we were short on time, short on budget. We had to make it happen. We've been there.
Use what you got. That's absolutely right. And I love it because it's simple.
Yeah, and
I mean?
It's so gross, and I'm afraid to try to wash it because Lord only knows what'll happen.
There's no need. I think it's perfect the way it is.
Yep.
We have this little heart here.
Yeah, all these stains have been here.
And there's no good story about that. We had some moonshine-soaked cherries as I was putting it in my fat mouth.
It spilled and it made a heart.
Yes, so I figured we can't.
What more do you need to know there, right?
This is just a coffee stain.
I like it. Everything tells a story, right?
So anyway, when we first did episode 1, Red Eye came up.
Oh, really? That's right. I remember you guys mentioned that. Right?
We were talking.
You guys went to one of the shows, right?
Yeah, we didn't really remember the first time we actually went to a show together. And Neil goes, "I actually think it was a Red Eye show." And that was back when we played for Marauders.
Yeah, right.
I mean, how about those were the days, huh?
The Marauders were one of the best times in my life. You know, the funny thing is about life is that, you know, you never realize that you're in amazing times until you look back and retrospectively think about it.
Right.
Which leads me to believe that enjoy now always, right? Like right now, I am so excited to be here. I'm having a great time, and I'm present, right? The more you can be present, because if the past teaches anything about the future, right, is to enjoy yourself. And the Marauders, you know, the camaraderie. You know, John was a great mentor and a great guy.
Awesome.
Always had beer for us and food.
7
and all
minutes.
Yeah,
just take 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
To get cold.
That's right. we go camping every year in August, right? And it just great brothers. I mean, they're just an amazing time.
Well, I mean, I think it says a lot too that a lot of that group still talk to each other.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
I mean, I know in fantasy football, there's a handful. You know, we just went to Black Crows with Dave Rhea.
Oh, did you? Oh,
and
cool.
Brad Mays
Nice.
and,
Great guys.
Joe Nora.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Joe was great. He's got a great energy. I love him.
Yeah, we went and saw him play.
I love
him. Cool to see.
He's a kindred spirit. Yeah, and he's still jamming, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we went and saw him at the Token. And it kind of took me back to seeing you guys.
Yeah,
I used to love going to those shows.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, you guys did play a little heavier.
Right.
And that's what amazes me is you literally picked up a guitar. So that would have been your senior year of college.
Yeah, it was like 93,
22.
22 at the time.
And then,
21, yeah.
So then I started thinking, I'm like, well, I saw you at the Impound.
Yeah, the Impound,
in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
And I don't. Is the Impound even there anymore, Neil?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, I can't really.
I don't think it is. So I'm not going to have a problem telling this story. Plus, whatever. But no, we used to go there as freshmen in college and just sit there and just get hammered.
Sure.
And then on your way, you know.
Yeah, right.
And I remember, I think it was that night going to see you guys play. It was the last night that everyone was at UAD. And me and Pickler bonged 15 beers each.
That's it? Lightweights.
In 1 hour.
That's crazy.
And we just kept going. And all of a sudden, we're going to the Impound.
Yeah. Did you know you were going in the Impound?
I knew everything. And I knew I ended up, and I've told this story, but I was right up at the front.
Yeah.
And I was right in front of you, and I remember reaching out, like touching your pedal. And you just booted me with your foot.
I remember that.
I'm like, what the heck? You know, and then, of course, I deserved it. I realized that.
No, that was funny.
And then someone took me, and I just sat up at the bar the rest of the time. I look over, there's Pickler like doing shots. He's still drinking like a madman. It was crazy.
Oh yeah, because we actually built
So
those pedal boards. We actually built them, right? So there was like we had wood, and then we put felt over it. So my one of my guitar was it Robbie? Yeah, so at the time we had put these pedal boards together, and then Cal was starting wanted to touch us. Like, no, it's gonna be a disaster if something
like a
starts.
little toddler.
That's awesome.
Like, what the F?
We were actually scared to play that show because there were a lot of dudes there looking at us like, "Who the hell are you guys?" You know. So in the beginning, when we weren't that confident, and not that we ever got super confident, but
I guess that's what I was. So that would have been April of '94.
Yeah.
So I mean, within a short time, I mean, you guys are.
Yeah, it was about a year.
Yeah,
it was about a year.
But one thing I do remember is you guys did a very solid cover of Pearl Jam's "Black."
Yeah.
That was pretty sweet.
One of my favorite songs. You know, if you had a Forever 5 for songs, which I'm going to suggest, that'd be one of them. You know, that Black invokes an emotion. Like when you put headphones on and you just sit there with the music, right? The space inside that song is just it gives me goosebumps even just talking about it, right? And it was just an amazing song. And Robbie did a good job. We'd always bring the acoustic guitar too when we go camping, right? The Marauders. And Greg Doughboy, right? We'd be like, "That's tasty, man." And he would just be sitting there, and it'd be 4 a.m, and Robbie and I would be up, and there'd be like 2 or 3 people just hanging out, right? And just those moments, bring me back. Right?
That'd be the best. Yeah, we go to like Patterson's place. Was it Walled Lake?
Yeah, we ended up playing there. We ended up doing a show there. I think for one of like a 4th of July or something party.
Were you there at the time where you can remember he would always take people across on the pontoon and drop them off at the bar? They go pick them up. Well, the one time we took too many people to pick them up.
Oh, really? And they were
stranded? On the way back, we started sinking.
No, I don't remember that.
And it was me, Scott Weiger, and there was someone else. All jumped in the water and waited for John to take everyone else back, and then came back, picked us up out of the water. We just sat there, hang out in the water. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning.
It's like the Titanic, right?
I was on the door, little bitch. I got on that door.
That's awesome. That's right. Screw you guys. I'm being saved.
Right? That's hilarious. No, that's what I was going to say. It just seems like you guys just, like you said, you did it. And I think, another point in life, since you brought one up earlier, is just do it.
Just do it.
You guys could have sat and practiced and tried to make sure same thing that we could have done with our
There's
podcast.
Never a perfect time
No.
in anything, right? And that's another lesson, I think, a great lesson to learn in life.
Absolutely.
Is just, just do it, because you never know when that opportunity will come up again. And you always prepare, and you never just, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, big deal, and move on.
Right. And it doesn't make any sense to say, oh man, I wish I would have started this 4 years ago.
Yeah.
What if I would have started 4 years ago? There's a good chance it wouldn't have made it.
Sure.
Back to what you were saying, it's timing too.
I would say divine timing. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens,
Uh-huh.
whatever it does, and don't spend so much time investigating or analyzing why.
Right.
Just
do
go with the flow, right?
Right.
Just live. It's all about vibration, right? And that's what music is. I would say language is a poor means of communication, but music is the ultimate.
I agree.
Right?
It's the one thing that it's the ultimate connector, I always say.
It is.
And especially live music.
Yeah.
So you've been on both sides of it, obviously playing, but then, you're obviously a lover of live music. I know that.
Oh, yeah, no,
Firsthand?
Firsthand, obviously. We did play some awesome shows. We ended up opening for Live and Michelle Branch at Arts, Beats, and Eats.
Oh,
I want to say it was around...
Was that when it was still in Pontiac?
Yeah, when it was in Pontiac.
been.
Yeah, up on the Phoenix Amphitheater, up on the top there, right?
I love
So
that
I
place.
remember being in the dressing room behind the stage with Live, right, and they're powwowing. They're out of their mind.
Ed Kowalczyk?
Ed Kowalczyk, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're powwowing, and they asked us to come and join them. So we're in this circle, and we're like rotating, and they're chanting these Indian. I don't know what they were doing, right? It was a trip. I thought I was in Twilight Zone.
That's right.
But it was just an amazing experience, right? Then to play. So we played first, and then Michelle Branch played second, and then Live played, ended up playing third.
All right.
So that was an amazing experience because we were on both sides of it in one event, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I did see Live one time.
Did you? Yeah.
And it was me, Paul, and Dan O'Shea.
Oh, nice.
Which I will definitely give one of those.
Dan
One of the
O'Shea.
greatest people I've
One of the
ever
greatest
known.
ever. He's with us here.
Absolutely.
I feel his presence.
And we went to Ann Arbor. It was the Michigan Theater or whatever there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those bands that I was never in love with,
Yeah.
but I tell you what, you see them live, they put on a great show.
Sure.
They're actually touring right now.
Are they really?
Yeah, and they're with someone else who's, I think, pretty good. I don't know.
When you see big bands at small theaters, there's a show I went to see, and people don't believe this when I tell them this, but it was in '91, The Blind Pig.
Okay.
I went to see a band called Zoo Gods. I can't remember what they were, but the headliner was called Mookie Blaylock.
Nice.
Come to find out, that's Pearl Jam, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you
Didn't
actually
know.
did see
So
Pearl Jam at Blind Pig.
It was about 400 people. I think it was right around Thanksgiving time in '91. I think
Right
it was
before
91.
they blew up, but they already had commitments.
Yeah. So they called themselves Mookie Blaylock because they didn't know what to name them, right? And they I guess the story goes they had some cards, some basketball cards. They liked the way he played. He played for the Nets, or I can't remember.
No, Seattle.
Seattle.
Supersonics.
Okay, Seattle Supersonics.
Yeah.
That's right.
And he was number 10.
Yeah.
And hence the name of their album was 10.
So that experience to me, yeah, exactly. That experience, because they played alive. They played a couple, recognizable songs. "State of Love and Trust," which ended up being on the movie
Single
soundtrack. And when you go to a live show and you're there, something happens to you, I think, metaphysically, right? It's just like all your molecules in your body start rearranging themselves, and you just get into this vibration of love, and you're just like, you can't speak, you can't move, and that's what it was like. It was just mesmerizing in a complete state of hypnosis.
I love it.
Oh, it was
That's
awesome. And that's to me, that's life. All the other BS that we go through in life, the material side and your identity, who you are, and labels and all that stuff. None of that makes sense. When you get into that and tap into that, you've won.
Mm-hmm.
You know who really embraces that is the Grateful Dead followers.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right.
But it is.
It's 100%. That's the premise there, right?
That is.
They take them on a journey.
They do it to a whole different level.
Right,
but
right.
to a certain extent, that's exactly what that's what we always talk about, and you've pretty much answered the question when we ask, what is it that keeps you going back?
Yeah, that's it. It's the experience.
One question I do have for you, because you have been on both sides.
Sure.
So when you do go to a show,
Mm-hmm.
do you find yourself focusing on different pieces, like the guitar player or this or that, or what is it for you when you're watching a band?
A lot of things, yeah. So let's unpack this. Yeah, it's gonna take a minute.
You got the lyrics, you got this, you got kind of looking at individual pieces and parts.
So I love going to a show alone.
I love it now.
I love it. And I love people, okay? I don't hate people. Mm-hmm. I like them sometimes. I like my space too, but But I like to go because when you're by yourself, that's when you're most observant because you have no distractions, right? And that's not in a negative way, it just is what it is.
100%.
But as a musician, there's a couple things. So tone is important to me. One of the things I like about bands like, Smashing Pumpkins, one of your favorite bands, their tone is like liquid. I don't know if that makes sense to you. It's just the guitar tone is very liquidy. It feels wet, and it's just like it dances. And their music, to me, if you look at what a composition of a song looks like, there's a bunch of space, and each instrument fills a certain part of that space. And the key to what makes it orally appealing to people is that you don't interfere with other spaces of other tones, right? So I always look for, how is the guitar fitting in? How are some strings fitting in? How are the vocals? How are the drums? And Neil, I know you like drums, right? You're a big drum guy. And I love that. That's what I love most. Like that song, Street Spirit, covered by John Domayan. He's the drummer for System of a Down. And the singer on that is M. Shadows. I think he's the Avenged Sevenfold singer. But that song, the drums, when it first starts, right, it just like, it takes you. So the drums are hypnotic. The drums kind of get you in that hypnotic state. So I focus in on the drums. Then I see, how does the bass now lock in to the drums, right? Because they're typically...
those are this.
Exactly. They're intertwined, right? They're intertwined. And then how is the guitar laid on it? How is it built? I love songs that have a lot of crescendos and build up, right? That just explode.
Oh, yeah.
Like Lucky Man by The Verve. I love that song because it starts with acoustic, and then when it kicks in, it's just like you start moving, unconsciously, right? It just drives you that way.
Sure.
Or a song like Fix You by Coldplay.
Yeah.
So when my grandmother passed away, this was back in 2010, we were at her funeral, and they drive by the house on the way to the cemetery. So I got in my car and I put Fix You on. And right when that song explodes, I was dead smack in front of my grandma's house. And I'm just like, that's divine intervention, right? And that's what so that's getting back to your question is, in the song, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for those moments that kind of take you to the next level. And you just keep ascending, right?
And you could hear that same song at 4 different shows, and it can be different every time.
100%. And then obviously looking at people's reactions in the crowd, right? Watching how the band interacts. There's so much visual stimulation and oral stimulation at a show. That's why I think live shows to me are just the best.
And then you factor in the crowd.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not just the band, and then it's how we always say how the crowd and the band are feeding off each other.
Yeah, and then you'll watch people, right? People will be just like, they'll be lost. And somebody over there just
there's some great people watching.
Oh my God, it's awesome. And I love that for them. I'm like, they're not worried about their bills. They're not worried about their life. They're not worried about any of the
At least for that 2.5 hours they are.
But I mean, how much more can you be connected than at that point?
Right.
That's, to me, that's the beauty of music. That's why I think it's amazing.
Like you too, I've become a huge fan of going to shows solo. Yeah. Before doing this show, I went to 2.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I went to Fish by myself. I went to Ben Harper. I met up with each on ahead of time, but in the actual show, I was sitting by myself. And then I actually went to Tool by myself.
I love Tool.
At the old State Theater, the Fillmore now. So that would have been February '94.
Wow.
Echon got me a ticket for my birthday.
That's awesome.
And come to find out, years later, he actually had one ticket that he bought for himself, and he gave it to me for my birthday.
Oh, sweet.
And I'd always give him shit. I'm like, why wouldn't you buy 2 so you could go with me? And I was just jumping his ass.
Right.
And actually, it's funny. I forgot all of this. So, I mean, I'm at that point, I was either just prior to my 19th birthday or I was already barely 19. Horrible directions. I'm at 6 Mile in Livernois, University of Detroit, and I got to get to the State Theater.
Okay.
Horrible directions, no phones, don't even have MapQuest at that time.
Right.
So I basically have to ask someone, how do I just
how do we ever get anywhere?
How do I, it's like back then it was, how do you get close?
Yeah.
But then, you know, me, I'm like, I'll just stop at a gas station and ask or something, which probably isn't the best idea. But anyway, so I finally get down there and by myself, but I found out a couple days before, Robbie Ludwig's going to be at the show.
Nice.
I'm like, oh my God, thank God. You know, I don't have to go alone.
Right.
So I'm like, let's meet outside at like 8, and then we'll go in or whatever. Well, he never shows. It's like 8:20, you know, blah, blah, blah. They're about ready to come on. So I go in, and then by myself, first, especially when you're 18 or 19, I got all the way up to like the front fucking row.
Did you really? Wow.
I mean, Tool, Maynard. About 4 or 5 songs in, I look over. There's Ludwig.
There he is.
About 5 feet away from me.
Robbie has an amazing ability to just emerge.
And that, he pretty much what he did.
He knows where the portals are.
I'm like, Robbie, what the fuck? We were supposed to meet. He's like, dude, I got a flat tire. I just got here.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
So funny.
That's awesome. Tool, by the way, one of my Forever 5.
Nice.
Tool. Tool, Perfect Circle. You know what I mean? Pussifier. I just love... the composition, that's another thing when you talk about the space and the music, you know, and the timing. They always use very interesting signature timing. I love Tool. That takes you, you know, that puts you on a rocket ship and catapults you into another dimension, right? And
Neil, refresh me, you did see Tool, or no?
No.
You've never seen Tool. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that live. They've been awesome.
So I saw, actually the first time I saw Tool, I was with you. I don't know if we were actually together at that time. We were at Lollapalooza.
Yeah, Lollapalooza. Oh, yeah.
Milan Dragway.
Oh, that was fantastic.
That was a doozy.
That was amazing.
Before we
Alice
get there,
in Chains, yeah.
I'm going to Lollapalooza. It's less than
I saw that, yeah. That's awesome.
Me and Emily are going.
Where is it at?
Chicago, Grant Park.
Oh, wow.
So we were in a hotel about 0.6 miles away.
Oh, that's great.
And
that'll take you back.
Just going to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be awesome. I mean, nothing's like the original, right? When you go back back in the day.
No, but I've never been to Chicago. This is 20 years Chicago.
Okay.
The headliners that I want to see is Hozier. I really like him a lot. Tyler, the Creator, was supposed to be there, but he recently dropped out. Now Megan Thee Stallion's going to be taking his spot.
Okay.
I know SZA is one of the headliners. The Killers. I've never seen the Killers.
Killers are
so
great.
I want to see them. They've always been on my list of people to see. I believe Future. Melanie Martinez.
Okay.
And then Blink 182.
Okay.
Which is the Sunday night grand finale, which I've never seen them.
I've never seen them live.
Not a huge fan, but
I like them.
I know so much of them, and you know you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, you're gonna have a good time.
I don't dislike
it's good music.
them.
No, it's funny when people say, you know, I hate this band or I love this band. I'm like, listen, I love.
There's a couple. I'm not a huge.
You may not be a fan of certain genres, but it doesn't mean I don't appreciate it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I'm like, well, because even Emily's like, well, I mean, if we feel like cutting out Sunday, we always could. I'm like, actually, I want to see Blink 182 because I've never seen them. You know,
no, they would be fun to see.
The original guys, I mean,
they'd be fun to see.
One guy has cancer. You never know if you're ever going to see him again.
Right.
We always talk about that.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, you know.
Yes.
Now.
So back to Tool.
If you can go see him, you might as well do it.
100%.
That's right.
Lollapalooza 93. We had a pretty good crew.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had a pretty good crew.
And Bob Hayes, actually, who's going to be here later today.
Nice.
And Paul, myself,
awesome.
You. I know there was others. Well, I'm just going to say I don't give a shit. That day started way early. So just outside Ann Arbor for people.
Yeah, I mean, you drove out there super early. You wanted to get set up.
It was the Dragway.
Right.
So it's the middle of like
nowhere.
Nothing.
Yeah.
There's no trees, no nothing. It's like 100 degrees, 100% humidity, and just fucking miserable.
Yeah.
But damn it, we were there probably by no later than 11 o'clock in the morning in the parking lot.
Oh, sure.
Just getting, pre-partying. And I remember we're going, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God. I gotta get to a bathroom. And I look, and there's a porter job. And there's like 200 people. And I'm like, motherfucker, I can't wait in this line. So I remember coming, I go to everyone that was with us, I'm like, does anyone have napkins, toilet? And it was you, you're like, I have some Kleenex. I have like 3 pieces of Kleenex.
There you go, that'll work.
Better than
I run by the porter job, I'm like, when someone comes out like, hey, can I grab some toilet paper? They looked at me like I was just fucking talking foreign.
That's the worst.
So I run to a tree. I did my business, and that's how my fucking day started in this 100-degree heat. I come back, we're all trash.
Deck stacked against you from the start.
It hasn't even started. But if you remember, we didn't even get in before Mr. Hayes was sitting in the ditch. Remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
Like I said, it was 100 degrees. We're obviously not drinking enough water.
Yeah.
And he sat so his feet were down. He just sat like this in the ditch and didn't move.
He was lifeless.
For like an hour.
Yeah,
he had no shirt on.
Yeah.
And it was just beating down on him. We were so sunburned. And that was the reason why I played Alice in Chains leading in.
Yeah.
That was the show.
That was the show.
And that's the only time I've ever seen Alice in Chains playing Staley. What about you?
I saw them at the State Theater.
No shit.
Fantastic show.
Wow.
Oh, man. And I've seen them since at is it the Emerald Ballroom in Mount Clemens?
Yeah.
I saw them with the what's his name? William Duvall. And it was a good show there too. I went to that show by myself and I actually loved it. But the State Theater was back in that's where I saw Rage Against the Machine for the first time. They're my forever five.
See, and this is where I'm talking about. Like, the time we were coming up and through that. When we were hitting our sweet spot going to shows is when you were hitting these guys.
There were a lot of shows, and there was.
I saw the Pumpkins at the State Theater, Fillmore, Detroit. Yeah. And we went to Steiner.
Yeah.
It was not even a week before Jonathan Melvoin passed.
Oh, really?
From the overdose. So then they paused the tour, Kick Chamberlain. So we actually saw that. That was like in support of Melancholy.
Oh, wow.
So they were doing everything.
Oh, yeah. I used to love going to the State Theater because I had Bill Miller, which was one of our backup keepers at OU, was working security there. So we'd always get in the back door. He'd always let us in, and we got to see so many amazing shows, like Alice in Chains, Rage Against the Machine.
So what time frame
Nirvana.
for like Alice in Chains? Nirvana?
So I saw Nirvana at the State Fairgrounds.
Paul was there.
Yes, yeah. And I thought I saw him at EMU's Convocation Center. I want to say, for some reason, I think I've seen him twice.
Do you ever go on that like Setlist FM site or whatever?
What is that?
You go and basically, like I went back to all the Pumpkin shows in the early 90s that I went to, and you can see where they played, every song they played.
Oh, that's cool.
Some of them will say, this isn't a true set list, but it was like the other ones around the time, and the other cities that they do have. But all the current ones, it's spot on. So like that's one thing I wanted to talk about today, because you brought up Tool, Lucifer. So I can't get off Lollapalooza yet. So Tool, that was the first time I saw them.
Yeah, me too.
And they were on the second stage that day.
That's correct, yeah.
And remember at first there was like maybe like 50 people.
Yeah.
And then maybe like 100. And Arrested Development was playing on the main stage. And all of a sudden by the end there's like 2,000 people like on this second stage. Yeah. And it's Tool.
Blew up.
But, we're like here to there. It was amazing.
Like I said, when you go back to seeing amazing bands on a small stage in a small venue, it's overpowering. Right?
And then I saw them at the State Theater with Ludwig.
Yeah.
I saw them with Ludwig. And then actually me, Bob Hayes, D-Ho, and Jurison.
Nice.
Drew went and saw them you mentioned earlier, the Phoenix Amphitheater.
Yeah.
I loved that venue. That was
it's a great
cool.
venue.
It was up on like top of the parking garage.
Yeah, top of the parking garage. It's a small venue.
The radio stations or whatever always had like their end of the summer bash or 89X or the River or whoever it was. But so we went to Sasanta. Right?
Yeah, how was that? I heard that was a pretty good show. Or no?
I'll let Neil go first.
Well, of course. I mean, it was a good show. I mean,
we
get Pucifer and Perfect Circle and all. That was probably the greatest part of it. Getting them all to sing it. We're gonna go. I'm gonna go. Now it's your turn.
Yeah. Oh, Primus was there.
Yeah.
Primus. Yeah.
Jerry was a race car driver.
Yes. Yeah. So that's basically played that. My Name Is Mud.
Yeah.
I'm horrible with names of songs. Tom the Cat was one of them they played. No, it was, there's shows, there's events, and then there's something special. I would put this in the something special category.
Nice.
And it's funny, it ties back. 93 Lollapalooza, Primus was the headliner.
That's right.
Remember? And Dinosaur Jr.
Good band as well.
Dinosaur Jr.'s on the stage, maybe got through like 3 songs, and that huge storm came
That's
through.
right. That was a bad storm. I remember that coming in.
And people had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of nowhere.
Just dealt with it.
It was just light. It was just, you knew it was coming, because like I said, it was 100 degrees, 100% humidity. It just had to happen.
Moses was coming and part of the Red Sea, whether you were in it or not.
And like the tarps behind the stage like blew up and everything. Which nowadays, like, they would probably just cancel that shit.
They would, yeah.
But nope.
See how soft society has become.
Yeah. Get the fuck out. But no. And then it was like probably, I would say, upwards of like an hour delay.
Yeah, it was a long delay.
And all of a sudden, the lights went out and back on, or whatever, and it was Alice in Chains. Because they weren't the headliner.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was Lane Staley, and they start going, and they play one song, they play another one. Bob looks over at me. I know I said this before, but he's like, isn't Alice in Chains going to be pissed off that Dinosaur Jr.'s playing their songs? So he was in the ditch before the show, and then by that time he hadn't even realized that a monsoon came through.
That's awesome.
And then a whole new band was up there.
Yeah.
And then Primus finished it out.
That's right.
But no, that show was really good, and a lot of it was because they did it in acts. So Perfect Circle started. It did like 3 songs.
Okay.
Primus came out.
Oh, cool. So they kept mixing it up.
They kept doing that, and then once they got, I think they did 3 each. It ended up being like 30 songs altogether.
Oh wow!
I mean, it was
a long show.
They started at 8 and damn near played till 11.
Wow.
Yeah. That's cool. 3 straight.
Yeah, and as they kind of got in like Act 2 and 3, then they like some songs would be 2 drummers because all 3 kits were right next to each other, like up on risers, and then by the end, all of them were just up there. Les Claypool had on his pig mask and everything. But so you mentioned the 3 of them, so I never knew really much of. As I through the concert and more now, like a Perfect Circle. Oh yeah, I knew quite a bit of their songs.
Yeah, no, Perfect
I
Circle.
never knew that James Eha was the guitarist.
Yeah. He had left. Was it around 2000 something when he left, or they stopped?
Right when he left Smashing Pumpkins, he basically went and started playing Perfect Circle. Yeah, he was like one of the originals.
And I'm big now into a lot of these supergroups because they just create such great music. Right? You had Audio Slave. I mean, Chris Cornell, to me, one of the greatest voices of all time. Right? I really doubt he committed suicide, but that's for another time. Or Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, right? And I just love Chester Bennington's voice, right? So I love vocals like that. And then you've got Audio Slave. You got Tom Morello, who's been in quite a bit from Rage Against the Machine. He's been in quite a few.
He just played either a show or 2 or whatever a little bit with Jane's Addiction.
Oh, did he?
In Europe.
Okay.
Now that Navarro's back.
He's all over the place. He's all over the place. So I Mad Season was another super group that I really enjoyed.
God, that one album is...
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome.
That's funny, because I actually put that on one of my posts.
Did you?
Like, getting ready for today and the music behind. I did Wake Up.
Oh, yeah. Wake Up, Above. Yeah, those are... Mad Season, I just... Yeah,
what's the one you always love from Mad Season? It's got both the singers.
So you're going to get me on... names of songs just like you, but I can't remember.
It's Lane Staley and
Mark Lanigan.
Oh, Lanigan.
From
yeah.
Screaming Trees. Yeah. It's Long Gone Day.
Yes, my bad.
That's a great song too.
And you got, to me, I think probably I was never a big Soundgarden fan.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and I appreciate Cornell's voice.
Yeah.
I get it all. Mm-hmm. But when that was coming out, even Nirvana was never huge. I liked the Pumpkins before I even knew of Nirvana. Rhinoceros.
Yeah, Rhinoceros, Hummer. I love.
Well, Rhinoceros was off of Gish, and that came out.
Yeah, that's right.
In like '91.
That was before Siamese Dream, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was before that stuff, and I remember. Paul, he had everything known to man, and I remember, wow, this is awesome. So like, I love that already because they're always kind of outside of that whole movement, compared to everyone else. They always had a little different, and that always used to piss them off, but whatever. But I did appreciate all those bands, but I always thought the 2 best voices were Staley And then Mark Lanigan from Screaming.
Yeah, Mark Lanigan has a great voice. Yeah, I'm a big, like I said, I'm a big Chris Cornell fan. I just love I love his voice.
I can't imagine also playing. I mean, he was rhythm guitar, right? So playing that.
He was, and you got him. Audio Slave. You got Tom Morello, and you've got Chris Cornell playing together.
Kim Thayil.
Yeah. I mean, he was an amazing guitarist. Right? Yeah, for sure. And that's when I first started playing guitar. So I tried to emulate.
So I mean, you were the only. I got to go back. So you were the only guitarist in your band.
Yeah, in the first band, in Red Eye, Eightfold Path is. We'll talk about that in a minute, but Red Eye I was the only guitar player, and so.
So you were just literally like out there.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I always wanted. So I was a big Zeppelin fan, right? From credit to Mike Sheehy, props to you, my friend.
Sheehy, he's awesome.
He is. So
always looked up to him.
I always wanted a Jimmy Page Les Paul. So there was a guy, shady guy, who came around and he was like, "I can get you a Les Paul for $1,100." I'm like, "These are $2,500 guitars." He's like, "I'm like, where?" I was about to say, "Where can you get it?" I'm like, "Okay." So he just shows up on my doorstep, my apartment one day, and he brought a Les Paul. So it was a Heritage Charity Sunburst Les Paul, beautiful guitar, and that I just love that heavy sound. Even though Jerry Cantrell didn't really play the Les Paul primarily, he actually played a Fender and even a Strat. But that coupled with the Marshall, 100-watt Marshall head, and I had the half stack and the full stack, 4x12 cabinets, and then I get a Mesa Boogie. So I love the deep, heavy sound, right? And the Gibson Les Paul was what brought it, right? Just hitting that chord again. You just sit in front of it, as you would imagine, right? Just hitting a chord, just being blown away by it, right?
It's probably like saving a PK.
It is. It is.
No,
it is. It's
dopamine
hit, right?
I love the way you describe that because, I mean,
because you can correlate it back to something in your life.
You can. Yeah, the very first time I turned it up to 11 and I hit that chord in Carl's basement, right? It was
Carl's the best.
Carl was the best. We would jam and we would like 2 a.m. we'd go out back and we'd barbecue. We spent so much time. And it just was very formative for me, not only as a musician, but just as a person, right? You grow, you get experiences, and we had a blast. And I always look back, music derailed my soccer career for sure, right? So I started playing, at shows and all that. But Red Eye was together for quite a long time, I think 3-4 years. And then things kind of changed, and I ended up forming a group called Red Eye, or Eightfold Path. So Eightfold Path, we had a female front person. And then a guitar player, his name was Bob Jones. Katrina Purdy was on guitar. Chuck Howard was our bass player. And then we had a couple of different drummers.
So, sorry to jump in, but this was while you were still in Michigan.
Yeah. So I ended up, buying a house in Livonia.
Okay.
I think in '97, and then this was around 2000. So when I formed that band, we ended up rehearsing in my house.
Okay.
Right. So that was the space we did pretty good. I mean, we were more ethereal sounding. We were kind of like Coldplay and Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd, one of my forever 5.
I think we've hit 4 so far.
Yeah, it's gonna be like 8 or 9.
So I have a feeling you have more than just one.
Dunkel has the second line.
Well, this is what I said. My starting 11.
Yeah.
So I'm coming with the starting 11.
That's cool.
And I do have an 18-man roster.
I will say real quick. So you had Zeppelin was one. I've never seen Zeppelin or Jimmy.
I saw Page Plant. Yeah, I never saw Zeppelin. Page Plant was good. I saw them at the Palace.
Okay.
But what I saw at the Palace that I really enjoyed? I saw Rush.
Okay.
And
I bet that'd be a great
I sat side stage, so the sound was terrible, but I got to watch Neil Peart drum for like 2 hours, and I was just blown away.
It's like a cockpit.
It was, man. It was. I mean, he had almost a 360-degree drum kit, right?
Yeah.
But just watching him master his craft and work that thing.
We saw probably the best ever.
Yeah, I think so.
People
I think
argue it, but I mean, he's definitely in the
he's definitely one of the best, arguably one of the best drummers ever.
I did see Tool. I did see Rage.
Okay. Rage was great. I mean, the mosh pit in Rage was, phenomenal.
Well, you saw him at State, so that would have been...
I saw him at State, yeah.
I saw him with Echon at the Palace.
Okay.
I was getting to be, I want to say that was right around 2000, so it was probably around 25.
Yeah.
I was never big into that genre.
Yeah.
I liked Rage because they were like the first ones.
Yeah.
And like they brought it.
They're very
I would say the
rhythmic,
show was
right?
very high energy.
Yeah.
But I'm not a mosh guy.
Yeah.
I had main floor.
Yeah.
And from what I remember, I honestly only played like an hour and 20 minutes.
Really?
And, which... whatever, but people are like, oh, I mean, imagine being in that mosh pit for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I wasn't.
I've been in it.
Not more than 5 minutes. I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to not be in the mosh pit and maybe an hour and 40.
Yeah, the one thing I like about Rage is they're very rhythmic, right? And they're very heavy and compact, and that's
very temperamental.
Yeah, they are. They are. They got a lot to say.
But no, it was. I will say, I'm glad I did see them. I think we actually were at that. They were at that Lollapalooza.
They probably were.
In '93.
They probably were.
Like, I want to say they might have been the very first band, and that's one of those things where you can go and check on that website and see who actually played when and where. And all that.
Why I like them too is because they use a lot of drop D tuning. So that's the top string on the guitar. You tune it down to drop D. So the first two strings are a D chord basically. So you can play a lot of heavier stuff with that, right?
Right.
So it was much easier to play, and it was heavy. And that's in the beginning. That's why I gravitated towards them, because I just like that heavy.
Right.
That heavy, easy sound. So they were, always a great band. Tom Morello, like I said, I think is a very innovative, guitar player, right? A lot of his solos, his use of the wah, all that kind of stuff, I really, was attracted to for sure.
So back to Eightfold Path.
Yeah.
So how far did that go? What did you guys do with that?
So we, like I said, we formed the band right around 2000-ish, somewhere in there. And we did well, actually. We got on a small label. So we were on a small label. It was Eminem's lawyer. His name was Les. I always want to say Les Nessman from WKRP in Cincinnati, but that wasn't his last name.
Chai Rodriguez.
So we ended up
I love that show.
Oh, that's fantastic. We ended up recording a little bit, and then it's cliche-ish. The band kind of broke up because of creative differences. We never ended up putting an album out. We had a live album. We had a couple live. Memphis Smoke. We played in Royal Oak.
Okay.
So interesting story there. I ended up meeting a guy from Novi. He was a lawyer, and he had another buddy, and they were doing a film called One. So it was a movie about spiritualism in the new millennium. So he was put out an ad out in the, what was the magazine? The Metro Times. Right? In the back saying...
Lifeline to try to find
shows. It was. I used to love that. I used to Metro Times, Rolling Stone, Guitar World.
That's what, Paul used to have that subscription to Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
That's where you would
That's where you listen.
Music,
That's where you, exactly. Before you had the internet and all this other distractions. That was where you went. So I ended up responding to this guy, and I ended up working on the movie with him. So we ended up interviewing like Deepak Chopra and a lot of different spiritual leaders. And I ended up interviewing this guy named Sadhguru, and it was Isha Yoga. It was this guy, an Indian yoga from Coimbatore, India, the south of India. And I ended up doing a lot of this yoga work with him. And I ended up becoming a practicing Buddhist for like 4 years.
Oh, wow.
I just started exploring religions. I always had that question, like, there has to be one truth. Mm-hmm. There can't be 17 different truths. Mm-hmm. And whatever
we
you want
don't
to
dig
believe
into that much on here, but I'm the same way. Is like I don't disagree that there's something out there, but who says you're right, you're right, you're wrong, this one and everything.
But I say whatever resonates with you, 100%. Mm-hmm. As long as you're not hurting anybody, 100%, right?
That Harper said it best.
Yeah, right.
If I'm causing no problems, it shouldn't bother you.
That's right. So anyway,
about something else. But.
So this guy in India. So I ended up working for a company that had a headquarters in Coimbatore, India. So I went to this guy's ashram in India, and I sat, and he has this thing called the Dhyala Linga. It's a consecrated vessel. It's probably 30 feet long, this metal vessel, and you just sit and meditate in there. And I sat in these little cubby holes, and I thought I was floating because the meditation energy was so amazing and so incredible, right? That it was just like you were vibrating. And this goes back to, again, the vibration of music, right? The frequency of music, because music can heal. Right, the frequencies of music. I mean, there's I think 174 hertz is a healing tone. You've got a 963 hertz is the God tone, and then you have music. I don't know if you guys ever heard the theory of the perfect hertz for music is 432, I think, but then it was changed to 440 hertz, which made it less of a healing tone. Have you guys ever heard that?
Mm-mm.
Interesting. Maybe next time I come on, we'll dive deeper into that. But going back to this,
I will say I know next to nothing about music.
you know a lot more than you lead on. No, you guys know a lot more than you lead on. Yeah. Go ahead, Neil. You say something?
No, but just as far as that, the hertz is, the level of that. I mean, I'm with Kal. I don't know much about it, and I was gonna even say something about you've wrote music too,
right?
Like. How do you? I mean, I've said this on here before. How do you even start to write a song? Like just that.
Yeah,
and
the songwriting process.
And then you have 3 other guys.
Well, this is what you do. So what we'd do is, we'd get together, we'd have a couple of drinks and, get comfortable, and then we would just start jamming. So I was like, hey, start a riff. So I would start a riff, or the drummer would start a bass rhythm or a drum rhythm, or somebody would start singing, and then you just start jamming. So we would take 3-4 hours of tape and record, and then we'd come back the next day and we'd listen to it. And a lot of it was garbage and junk, right? Sure. But there was always these little things that were like, hey, this is a good idea.
We can connect.
And then you start to build on that, right? Then you start to tailor it, and you start to put it all together. So that was always the creative process. And sometimes people would come in with complete songs, but for the most part, it was just, let's just jam. Let's, remove the thought process from it. Yeah. And let's just go beyond it.
And some bands, I'm sure, do it differently. Like you said, hey, I bring almost this complete song, and, here's my ideas. But
right.
I've always wondered if it's so you just basically hit record, you just do whatever, hang out, and then
we love doing
find pieces and parts, and then you build from there.
For sure,
a starting block.
For sure, yeah.
Out with
like we came up with a cover. We did "White Wedding" by Billy Idol, right? And we did it on I had a Moog synthesizer, and I would just start doing these chords, and we slowly started putting that sound together. And it was like we weren't planning on doing that, but things just happened.
Right.
Excuse me. And if you allow it to happen naturally, you come up with the best stuff. When you think too hard about it,
organically, they like to say.
Organically, that's you hit the nail on the head, Neil. Yeah. Organically,
or maybe holistically.
I think that's a great word as well. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic word. And again, holistically is just to branch off of that real quick. It's about striking a balance, right? In anything in life. I mean, I try to teach that to my kids. I'm like, enjoy the here and now. I always say time is a man-made construct. Time is not real.
Time's fucked.
And I always say, so I do a lot of public speaking, and I was showing you guys earlier that video I did.
I loved it. And that's where I saw Eightfold Path was on.
Yeah, I did Eightfold Path. Yeah. So my son had a psychology project where he had to take all these terms and make a song. So I took Eminem's "Lose Yourself" and I rewrote the lyrics and made a video, out of it. And that to me was a great experience because it allowed you to be more, creative. I got off track. Where was I going with this? That happens to you guys on the show a lot.
All the time. Are you kidding me?
You're on a tangent.
I have something I want to talk about, and then we go way off.
Oh, we're talking about balance. We're talking about balance. Oh, time is a man-made. Oh, got it. I'm back.
Yep.
I'm back.
You did the lose yourself.
I'm back. Yeah. So I did that at one of the talks I gave. So I do some public speaking, like I said. So I noticed in the crowd that people were on their phones and not paying attention. Right. I'm like, and you notice that a lot in the world now. And that's the one thing. I think I always say technology and sugar are the biggest drugs in the entire world, right? If you can get off of those two things, you're going to make some progress. So I'm sitting at a conference, and I always like being by myself and just watching and observing. I noticed everybody's on their phone. Nobody's paying attention to the speakers and all that. I'm like, well, what can I do to change things up? So I played that video, and all of a sudden people are looking up and what the hell is this? And then I got on stage and I said, hey, my name is Gio. It rhymes with Neo, and The Matrix is not a movie; it's a documentary. And I just stopped. And I just stared at them. Like the best thing you can do is not speak. Silence is powerful, right? And everybody's went up like this. I'm like, if you're interested in being present, put your phone down. And people actually did it. You know what I mean? So I always say, like, to me, I feel like we're living in a simulation. I feel like we're in the Matrix and we're trying to escape, right? So those movies always intrigue me, and I think movies mimic life. You can find a lot of truth in movies. A lot of movies that are supposed to be fiction are actually, I think, real.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
And you can tap into that. Like, if you look at, the Terminator series is a prequel to The Matrix, right? Sarah Connor's son, John Connor, is actually Neo. And Neo is in. This is where we are right now. Like I feel like AI, and I'm in artificial intelligence automation now, from the auto industry. So I get a lot of AI scares the crap out of me.
Oh yeah.
Right, because now you don't know what's real, you don't know what's not real. So I always
scary.
Yeah. So
I found people are out there using our voices, Neil.
Yeah. They are. They will.
They might.
Oh, yeah.
And they probably will one day.
Well, it's got to happen.
Huge.
You know it's got to happen. There are deep fakes everywhere. Yeah. Like I said, I don't even watch the media or the news or anything else anymore because I just don't know what's real. So that way I go back to music. And I just tell my kids, to be present. The only time that you're actually alive is right now. So enjoy now, and music can be a great part of that. I always have music playing in the background. Like if I'm making dinner, if I'm making Mexican food, I've got mariachi bands on. If I'm making Italian food, I've got Italian music on.
That's amore.
Yeah, totally, right? Cliche-ish, Italian stuff. Volare, all that kind of stuff. But I love that because it adds an element. Music always adds and elevates whatever you're doing, right?
100%. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm the same way. If I'm doing work outside, there's always music on. If I'm, I might be cooking, not all the time, or hell, I might even be in the shower. Sometimes I have it on, sometimes I don't.
Yeah,
but it's
100%.
like, sometimes you just want it, you need it, and whatever. You mentioned how you have playlists.
Yeah,
you do. And I just have one huge playlist. I just keep throwing songs on. Okay. It's like 1,500 or whatever. But then what I started doing, for us, on the show, we would do playlists with bands we talked about.
Sure.
So that's why I write down, okay, we talk, so then I'll do that. But then when I'm driving the shows, everything is an hour from here.
Yeah, right. So you got time, yeah.
Right, so I'm just listening to music, and I just keep track of everything I hear, and then I put that out, And
you have your rules. I mean, you mentioned your rules.
Yeah. they're pretty simple. But no, I was just doing it on the way there and on the way back. I just kind of be like in the zone driving. Yeah. Like, well, screw it, I'll do it there and back. Because that way I can get at least 2 songs from one band.
Right. That's right.
You're there and back. It's like 2 sides of the tape. Because that was what it was. You could only do that. We both had to agree on everything. But that brings me back to like Tool and Maynard, right? So at Sasanta, I mean, he is 100% no phones, no nothing.
That's awesome. Be present. I do get. Yeah, I get that too.
Now, for me, I take a video of every single song.
You're doing it for a different purpose.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But I also respect people. Like, I went by myself to see Pixies and Modest Mouse. Okay. Never seen either one of them. Nice. Oh my God, it was awesome.
That's great.
One, Pixies ended with Winter Long by Neil Young.
Nice.
I mean, I love a good cover.
Oh, I love good covers.
And Modest Mouse was awesome. So Modest Mouse was first. I ended up buying a solo ticket. And I went to Freedom Hill. Never been there either. So I knocked 3 birds with 1 stone. Freedom Hill, Modest Mouse, and Pixies. Well, for Modest Mouse, I'm right at the very front of like the back seats. I'm on the rail, and I look back. Not one person's standing up. Well, I'm not going to stand up so I can take a video.
Right.
So I sat there, and I always make sure my phone stays within my body envelope.
You're not obstructing somebody else's.
No, I'm doing this, and if the video looks like shit, like every single Modest Mouse one does, because people are walking by. I don't care. Sense. My point isn't to bring you to the show.
Right.
I don't want to film the show and be like, and not enjoy it.
Correct.
Because half the time when I'm recording, it's here, and I'm watching anyway.
Right.
And some guy who's like, I'm like, sometimes you do it. Like I want to bring music to everyone as possible. I may go see Modest Mouse now because I saw that video.
Right.
Or I've always loved that band, but I'm like, Sasanta, if you weren't paying $100, you weren't walking in the fucking door.
Right.
Not everyone can pay $100.
That's right.
So you know what? They might catch a quick video here or there, and it might make their fucking day.
Yeah.
So even when I'm standing up, it's always with the envelope of me, and don't worry about how I'm enjoying my show.
Right.
It's for me, a show is very personal.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why I've liked going alone now.
Sure.
To your point is, when you don't have someone with you, no matter who it's with, if I go with Neil, sometimes you might worry about, are they enjoying it? Are they having a good time? Or, whatever. Although when we saw Mudhoney, me, my daughter, Kennedy, and Neil didn't say a goddamn word.
Mudhoney's great.
For Mudhoney or Hoover 3.
Yeah,
it was just, we were all in that zone, and that's what you want to be. And I get the whole phone thing, because a lot of people are idiots with it.
Yeah, they can be idiots.
But you know what? You know who else is an idiot? This guy's screaming the fucking lyrics in my ear right now. He's drunk.
I don't want to hear you sing.
Right, I don't hear this fucking asshole sing. He's a dick, too. There's plenty of other dicks at this venue right now.
Yep. That's when you got to say a prayer for him. All the best, my friend. You're going to need it. But no, going back to covers, I'm a big fan of covers. Recently, like you played on one of your episodes, it was Street Spirit by John Dolmayan.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right, that's a great song. One of my other favorites is Another Brick in the Wall, which Lane Staley was the faculty. It's class of '99, I think. I don't know if you ever heard that one.
No.
It's I think it's Lane Staley, I forget who's playing guitar. I want to maybe Tom Morello. I'm one of the grunge band guitar players, but that's a phenomenal song, just because of how it drives, and at the very end when it just kind of kicks in rhythmically, it's fantastic. But there are a lot of what's another one that I like? Chris Cornell does Michael Jackson cover. I think it's not Smooth Criminal. Alien Ant Farm does Smooth Criminal. Have you ever heard that one? That's a good one.
Yeah.
Cornell does Nothing Compares to You.
Nothing. Yes. That's a pretty good one too. But there are so many that I enjoy. Enjoy the Silence, which is by Depeche Mode.
Yes.
Lacuna Coil. I don't know if you heard of Lacuna Coil. They're an Italian rock heavy rock band. They do a fantastic. So I got a playlist of all those songs that I really enjoy listening to, and actually wrote a couple of them down.
What's the big Italian band that's made it recently? They were like on. Of course, I'm not going to think of it now.
Like a Storm by or Gangster's Paradise by Like a Storm. Have you ever heard that? That's fantastic. I'll send you this list. I've got a ton of here. Or even like Marilyn Manson does Sweet Dreams.
Yeah.
You heard of that one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then have you ever seen the movie Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton's? It's the cartoon.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
I've never.
I love Tim Burton just because
he's just love it and shit. I've never.
He's
seen it.
just
I
his
love
vision
Tim
is
Burton.
yeah.
I've just never seen that one.
Yeah, but he does a version of This Is Halloween, which is a fantastic.
I have seen.
You've heard that before, right?
Yes.
So it's funny, interesting fact. I love Christmas cartoons. I don't know why. I don't even know why.
Because when we grew up, when we didn't, you had the Snoopy, and Charlie Brown,
the claymation ones especially, right?
Oh, the claymation, yeah, absolutely.
Rudolph, the Nightmare or
Frosty.
Year Without a Santa Claus, yeah.
Frosty.
Santa Claus is coming to town. There's even one called The Year Without a. Or no, sorry. What is it called? It's Santa Claus Dies. How morbid is that? But it's this claymation one. And I think what it does, it again, going back to evoking emotion, right? When you're growing up and you imagine, because we used to watch it on TV. We didn't have DVDs or any of that stuff. You had to wait on CBS at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night to go watch Rudolph.
Dude, we didn't have VCRs until I was like 10, 12 years old.
None of that
when
stuff.
People started getting them, we couldn't afford them.
Right. But I mean, what a great time to be alive. I mean, going back to technology and the fact that life without technology is so much better.
Nothing to everything.
Yeah. And I feel bad for our kids. It's not their fault. They've just been inundated with it because they're on their phones, they're on their devices and all that.
How it is.
Yeah, we used to go out and play street hockey, right? We'd go out and hang out every day.
I wanted to bring that up.
What's that?
Street hockey at your house. That was always so much fun, and I didn't play that often because I was younger, so whenever I did play, it was like so awesome. And I sucked out there; I couldn't play.
But it was fun, right?
But I would play goalie.
Yeah,
and it was fun. I'd do all right, but I mean, he had full pads, the leg pads, everything, blocker. And I will never forget taking a Mike Knighting slap shot with a tennis ball square off my chest.
He had the hardest slap shot.
And I mean, I played soccer goalie at very high levels. I've taken shots off every single part of my body, my face, my groin, my everything.
That was like you got shot.
But getting that, yes, it was like the damn thing went straight through my body like T2.
Oh yeah,
Terminator. When you take T2.
He would rip one, man.
And I was like. Took the wind out of me. I thought I was fucking dying.
Oh, man. But we didn't have anything to distract us. We actually would play bike hockey. We would play hockey on our bikes. How as ridiculous as that sounds. And take the stick and put it in the spokes so you could flip over. I was surprised we all survived. Right?
Absolutely.
But those were fun times. And then, he'd have a pool, so then we'd have to have races around the house to see who go swimming because his mom and dad would say, well, only 4 people can swim. So we'd have to have races, and the first 4 people would be able to go swim. We'd drink out of the hose and all that. Now everything is just different. And I feel bad for my kids because they haven't been able to experience that, right? It's just a simpler, easier time. And social media is great in one hand because now you're doing what you're doing, right? You're able to send it to the masses. But at the same breath, everybody lives their life online. And everybody thinks that everybody's life is what's shown online, and that's not the case. You need to make sure that you're experiencing the now and not, get away from that. Get outside. Every morning I get up, I go outside, I get my feet in the ground because I really feel like, our bodies are made up of electrical and chemical systems, right? So if you get on the ground, you're getting the electrons from the air.
That's the best thing to do. First thing in the morning.
And the morning sunlight, right? People say the sun causes cancer. I'm like, bullshit, And now that I'm getting older, I'm calling a lot of bullshit on a lot of things. Yeah. I'm not believing a lot of stuff that's coming out there. But those 2 things I try to do every day because it's healthy for you, right? That vitamin D from the sun is right.
You mentioned the sun does wonders.
It does.
I mean, just think. I mean, living in Michigan, your winter, sucks.
Yeah, that's why I love living in Austin. We were talking about that earlier, right? It's sunny 300 days a year, and I tell you what,
it's almost like a San Diego.
Cal, yeah, it makes a difference. You feel that. You feel it different when it's always sunny. When it's ever cloudy in Austin, I'm like, this is kind of weird,
right? So you went to Austin. Let's call it a little less than a decade ago.
2017. Yeah, there was an opportunity. So I was in the auto industry, and I ended up going into automation, artificial intelligence in the banking industry, and it was going from physical robots to software robots, right? So it was interesting. I knew nothing about it, but I ended up moving down to Austin and learned a lot about artificial intelligence and automation. So it was interesting. My family obviously came down with me, and we love being down there. It's hot, but I'd rather have hot than cold.
Right. And it's obviously a hotbed for music.
It is a hotbed, and this is
limits.
What I'm embarrassed to say is I haven't seen many shows since I've been down there.
Yeah, I've seen a couple. You haven't really picked up the guitar much until recently.
I would play off and on. Yeah, I would play off and on acoustically. I have the guitars sitting around out so I can play them. But I don't play as much. Since I went down to Austin.
Well, and I mean, I was saying about this earlier. It's a commitment.
It is.
Even if you're just screwing around with it.
Yeah.
You can sit there and next thing you know, it's probably 3 hours later.
Yeah.
You're just tooling around. And you got kids that are active and you're active in their life.
Right.
You got other
I will go, like when they go to bed at night, I'll go out back, I'll pick up the guitar and pour a drink and then I'll play, guitar, smoke a cigar and just hang out. And that's enjoyable. I really enjoy doing that, right? But the music scene in Austin is amazing. I've seen maybe 2 or 3 shows of local bands, right? But there's just so much there. I mean, I've been to the Moody Center where they actually do Austin City Limits.
Okay.
But I have not taken advantage of the music scene, unfortunately.
So you've been to Austin City Limits?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the actual filming of Austin City Limits, but the actual venue that they recorded at. Yeah, correct.
Were you ever like a festival person? I mean, other than like the Lollapaloozas?
Not really like Horde. I was at Horde. I went to Horde once. I did Lollapalooza. I know some of the newer ones I haven't been to. But
yeah. Because this Lollapalooza, I mean, that's like the first multi-day festival I've ever done.
Right.
I can't believe I'm doing it now, of all things.
Yeah. It's still a great experience.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going after it, right? Because my wife really isn't super into it like I am, so I can't be totally all in, but then she also can't be all herself. So it's going to be like that fine mix and just go and hang out.
Just go hang out and experience.
The only thing that I'm going to make sure is, they finally released all the stages and who's playing when and all that. And on Saturday, Perry's stage just has nothing but question marks the whole way.
Oh, really? Interesting.
And I've said it before, but the whole reason I bought the tickets was I had heard Jane's Addiction was back together. 4 original members, first new music since Ritual.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, they have to be playing Lollapalooza, the 20th anniversary of being in Chicago. And then seeing they're in their European tour right now, stops sometime this month. And then their North American one they announced starts August 11th.
Okay.
So this is August 3rd.
Right. Perfect.
So I told her, no matter what, probably that day, we're going to go as soon as we can get in. And I probably want to run to that stage and then just sit there all day to see what happens.
Yeah. Right.
And that's going to be me back in the day when we were like 19, 20, 21 years old. It didn't matter when you got in, but you found your way to get all the way up there. And that's probably the only close to non-negotiable that I'll have.
You got to have a few, right?
Absolutely. But no, I'm really looking forward to that. So I think we hit 4 of your Forever 5. So let me just go back. We had Led Zeppelin, Tool, Rage. Was it Pink Floyd?
Pink Floyd's in there.
Okay.
I'm a big System of a Down fan.
Okay. I've never really.
I saw them at where was it, Pine Knob.
Okay.
And they put on a good show. Yeah. Serge Tarkanian, who is, I'm probably pronouncing his last name wrong, but he's the lead singer of System of a Down, does his own solo thing as well. And he has a song called Empty Walls live, if you ever get a chance to check that out. It's just got a very
It'll probably
ominous
find
voice.
A way on our playlist for this episode.
I'm sure. That's and I love them, I mean, I've seen some good shows. Muse, I saw them at Joe Louis Arena. They put on a fantastic show.
I bet.
He is, Matthew Bellamy, whatever his name is. he's an amazing, talk about amazing musicians, right? I think because he plays classical piano. He's like a Eddie Van Halen, right? Who was trained classically, plays guitar like a Prince. Prince is an amazing, musician. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of respect for those guys that are just phenomenal. They have mastered their craft.
I think Eddie Van Halen started out on drums at first.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Or something. I could have it wrong. But then, like, either he hated it or sucked at it, or Alex just was so much better. So he's like, all right, I'll play guitar. I'll just pick this thing
right. Right. One of my other favorites is a band called Sigur Rós.
Never heard of them.
So Sigur Rós is from Iceland.
Okay.
And they're very...
okay. No, okay. It's like, looks like sugar. Right?
Yeah, Sigur. Yeah. Okay. Sigur, and then ROS. So Jónsi is this lead singer there. I've seen them a couple times. These are shows where you sit and you don't talk. Mm-hmm. It's just very indicative of the landscape of Iceland. Just beautiful and melodic. Uh-huh. That reminded me of, I checked out The National. Mm-hmm. I like them.
Yeah, The National is sweet.
They're very good. And it just invokes that emotion of you. It's just one of their albums, they actually made up a language called Hopelandic. And the whole album is of a made-up language. He's just singing in a made-up language. But if you ever get a chance to check them out, I like them just because they take you, like, you feel like you're floating on a cloud. It's the only way I can explain it, right? It just invokes that emotion. So that's probably one of them in there. So it's hard to do a Forever 5. I think I have to go to a starting 11, but Queen, I'm a big Queen fan. I love Queen.
I've grown to really like Queen a lot more as I age.
Again, composition wise, right? I think playing music, I really enjoy how songs are put
broad. All over the place.
And Brian May is a great guitar player as well.
100%.
I don't know. They're just some amazing musicians.
I mean, and it just all works together.
It does, yeah, it does. And I've got other ones on there. Like
there's always someone in the band that plays piano.
Yeah, always, right? Always.
Were you the guy in the piano?
I was. Yeah, because we needed to have additional sound, so I ended up getting a keyboard. I ended up getting this Yamaha motif, and I didn't know anything about playing keys, right? So I had to teach myself how to play. I mean, I was average. But I used it for sound, So like adding violins, or there was a song where we used a thunderstorm in the beginning to invoke sort of emotion. So I would play keys and guitar, and we had another guitar player, and then my bass player also had another effects unit that he would do sounds with, right? So I got really into that. I love layering sounds and just seeing where they fit and trying to solve that equation.
When you mentioned earlier the tie between kind of the rhythm section, the drummer, and the bass player. Probably it was recent, the best show, Mike Watt and Stephen Perkins at Porno for Pyros.
Yeah.
For their farewell tour last February. Oh my God, that was awesome.
It was amazing. I bet it was.
And actually, Mike Watt, I'm not sure what he's got going on, but he comes out with a little crutch and he sits the whole time. And that dude on that bass is amazing.
That's awesome.
I mean, so that was really cool to see that.
Oh, I bet. Awesome. I bet. Alice in Chains. That to me, and then Justin was talking about that, right? So it was great to hear that he was a big fan because I've always been a big fan. Their MTV acoustic performance was great, but then also their Jar of Flies album, the acoustic album, I loved, and they're just heavy. Like We Die Young, or there's a song called Love, Hate, Love. Yeah. I think it's on Facelift. Just the pain that he's transmits from what he's feeling into that song is just
it's a shame that all those awesome songs came from such a
dark place. Yeah.
I mean, it is.
It is.
That's I'm sure a lot of artists, that's what they write about.
That's what they get their inspiration from, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just happy-go-lucky your whole life,
that's what you write about.
What meaningful songs are you going to write? Yeah.
No,
I'm happy today. Thanks.
A song by Pharrell.
This sucks.
But that song. I'm happy.
That's right.
Pharrell.
That's awesome.
They might find it on the playlist, who knows? No, but it was funny because seeing Alice in Chains with Lane Staley. I mean, to me, that's I never
powerful.
Saw Kurt Cobain, so that's the one I always
Kurt Cobain, also very powerful.
But then seeing Alice in Chains with Will Duvall, they opened up for Guns N' Roses. Me and Paul went.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Field.
Oh, nice.
And we were just tooling around on the concourse while Alice in Chains was playing. And they sounded great.
Did they?
And Will Duvall, I mean, I got to give him credit because he came into a tough situation. He does well with the old songs.
He did
well with the new ones.
He did. I mean, Jerry Cantrell plays a more prominent role in the vocals, right?
Right. But he always had a balance.
He did.
Pretty prominent role.
He did. I mean, he stepped it up.
A lot of the times it sounds similar.
Right. Exactly.
He's not trying to be Lane Staley. He's just a dude that can sing, and then when you layer in that.
Sure.
Jerry Cantrell, it almost makes it sound even more like
it does. No, the layering they do is great. You know, even on like the self-titled album, Alice in Chains, the song Again is just an amazing song. It's just driven. And again, the crescendos in the music, right? It takes you on a journey, and that's I think what ultimately music should do, right?
100%.
And that's why I love it. I mean, I'll always have music in my life, and I try to pass that on to my kids.
That's why I used to love albums, cassettes, CDs, because you would listen to the whole thing and it would take you on a journey every time.
Oh yeah.
I would drive for work all the time. I would have my whole thing of CDs, and I would pick one, I'd put it in, I'd listen from song one all the way to song whatever's the end, and I'd put a new one in.
Yeah.
You know, because that's just how I listened to music back then.
That was the beauty of cassette tapes, right? You record stuff and you put them in your car.
Well, cassettes were the worst because it was so hard to go to the next song.
It was hard.
So you're like, fuck it, just listen to the whole thing.
You know what I ended up doing? You know, speaking of Matthew McConaughey and Dazed and Confused, I recorded the whole movie on audio cassette and I put it in my car. And I would listen to it on the way to work. I had about a 45-minute drive. I learned the whole movie and all the commentary in it, right?
That's funny. You know what I did that with? The Hamilton musical.
Did you?
My kids would be listening to it, and then we went and saw it, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So it was even after I went to it. It wasn't like I was listening to it to prep. It was like after I went, I would listen to it all the time. I knew like all the songs in order.
But you have all these, lines in there. Like my brother and I always, we talk on the phone. We talk almost every day. We always talk in this sort of drivel, like Steve Martin drivel, where my wife would be like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And we just play on different things. You'd say something, and then it would invoke a
That's why you're perfect for, like, some sort of games.
Yeah.
When you're in a family environment.
That's right.
Really, you have a team of 6, but you and Mike are, like, so perfect.
Yeah.
No one else is playing.
Right.
You're kicking ass.
Yeah, right, exactly. You play off each other.
Like me and Paul.
Yeah, totally, exactly. And to me, it's almost like you're massaging the brain, right? It's like very meditative, and, I love doing that with him. And we'll talk about nothing for hours, right? And again, it goes back to being present and just enjoying the moment, right? Because you're always going to have things you got to worry about. And to me, I always tell my wife, my kids, I'm like, listen, you should worry about some things, but don't spend your time being anxious or worrying about things, because 99% of the time, it's not going to come to fruition.
100%.
Right?
Like, how many times have I done the same type of thing, and 99.9% it works out fine. So odds are it's going to be the same.
Right. And if you can teach yourself...
I'm an odds player.
Yeah.
And if it's something I need to focus on, I'll focus on. But all that other shit's just noise.
It's noise, and I think that's where we're at in this world. I think you hit it on the head. There's a lot of white noise, and I think that's what music does too. It quells that noise, right? So when you can put the headphones on, and just the other day, we come up to Michigan twice a year now, ever since the pandemic hit. So we didn't want to deal with the airport, so it's about a 20-hour drive, but we'll put music on and listen to it all the way up, and
we're good right now.
When you come up to when you come up here, it's a lot of family time and all that, and it gets tiring. You're not sleeping in your own bed and all that. So the other night, I just put some music on for about an hour and just listened, and it rejuvenated me. It's almost like it reset all my cells in my body, right? So that's where I think it's therapeutic. Absolutely. And you can use music to your advantage, to do that, right?
Absolutely. Well, I think we could probably continue to talk for hours.
Sure.
I am so happy you came. This is something we've been talking about literally pretty much since day one. You've been one of our earliest supporters.
Yeah.
And, we mentioned about how we knew each other, but, come to think of it, I don't think I've talked to you since you've had kids.
No.
So, it's been approaching
That's 2007, yeah. So it's almost 20 years,
over 15, approaching 20.
Sure.
And, I really miss talking to you, and then, seeing kind of the little back and forth we had, and then we did end up talking on the phone, and we were texting back, and that's, the beauty of doing this. That's what I say all the time, is obviously me and Neil get to see each other a lot more.
Yeah, you get to hang out,
with people like you.
Exactly.
And then it's like the offshoots, like people that, like we mentioned, like the Jason Reeses of the world.
That's right.
Me and him,
you reconnect, and that's always, fantastic.
Which has been great for me, which was something I never expected. Actually, my son just graduated high school, right? Nice. So now, they're still, both the young ones are still here. I'm a grandpa, I have a lot going on, but I don't have, a lot going on either.
Yeah, no, it's
so that's why this is great. And then it's like, all right, I get to see Neil, but now we're reconnecting.
Yeah, I love reconnecting,
and it doesn't stop. Leading up to the show, at the show, and I never talked to you again. That's the beauty of it.
It keeps going.
The 12 shows I'm going to, I think now the count's up to, out of the 12 I'm going to, 10 of them I'm going with former guests.
Yeah.
Or with Neil or whatever.
Like I said,
tied to this, and
sure.
that's the awesome part of it.
Like I said before, I mean, you don't realize it back in the day that when you were in it, how amazing it was. Like we just had the '94 team that I played at Oakland that went to the national final. We got inducted into OU's Hall of Fame, right? So
that's how Wagstaff did too recently.
Yeah, Wagstaff did, so cool. And a couple of us have been previously to that.
So you were right.
I was in 2009, yeah, but
I was 2007.
Congratulations.
You too. Absolutely. A couple HLFs right here, bitches.
So the point I was making is that I got together with those guys last year, and it felt like we went right back to where we were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for those couple of days, I mean, everybody was just juiced. The energy was fantastic. It was off the charts, right?
I couldn't agree more, and that's what this is.
That's what this is doing.
And
right?
I can't wait for everyone else to see upstairs when we.
That's going to be awesome. But one thing I wanted to mention about my first show. I went and saw the Jackson 5, the Jackson Victory Tour.
No shit.
1980 or 82 at the Silverdome.
At the Silverdome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was the first time I ever saw a live show. And we were on the main floor, but we were probably like, if the stage was in one of the end zones, we were probably at the 60-yard line.
Sure.
40-yard line on the opposite side of the halfway. But
what a great first show.
It was it was an amazing show, and that whole stadium was filled, right? So you think 80,000 people.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was Jackson in his prime.
Yeah, that was Jackson in his prime.
He was bringing his brothers along,
around,
so he played all those old Jackson 5 classes,
right.
Plus he was playing shit.
Exactly. So I was 8 or 10, right? So I couldn't comment on the sound, but it was just the experience of that was just overwhelming.
That's a
great first show.
It was great. Yeah, it was.
That set the tone.
It set the tone.
Whether you planted the seed, whether you realized it or not.
Yeah.
That was like Aerosmith with me, Mm-hmm. I didn't go to a ton of shows when I was in high school. I went to
I didn't either, yeah.
But that Aerosmith show with Joan Jett opening up, and
right.
We were kind of side stage, but out a little bit, but it was awesome. And it set the tone. It planted that seed, and then I go see another one and another one. And then you might see a local band. Mm-hmm. Now you're like, holy shit, watching these guys play in a little bar.
Yeah.
No one ever even knows who they are, but just seeing that is amazing.
Exploring music is huge.
Because you don't see it up close and personal.
You don't.
Usually at those big shows.
Right, you don't. But there's so much good music out there. Like even Rage Against the Machine, a lot of their songs, there's a band called Brass Against. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Brass Against. They do covers. And the Brass Against is obviously a lot of brass. There's a lot of trumpets and
okay, I got you.
And that kind of stuff. But the songs are amazing. There's a Jazz Against the Machine that does a lot of like grunge music, but in jazz style, right? Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of these things, you just talk to people and have conversations, and they turn you on to something different. It's like always keep it on my mind because there's so many great bands and so much good music out there. That doing stuff like this, which I think is a great service to everybody, is to be able to check different kind of music out, right?
Absolutely.
So what you guys are doing is fantastic.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning all of those bands, right? Today, because hopefully that'll help people start listening.
And I'll even post some stuff. Some of these bands, like I said, I got a huge list of
100%.
a lot of like what's his name. Hurt, which is done by Johnny Cash, right? That's another great song.
We got a video of Mumford & Sons doing a cover of Hurt.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
cool.
At LCA. It was really cool. Absolutely. And I would say the journey don't stop here. I do appreciate you taking the time, especially when you're on vacation.
Absolutely.
I know it's a day away from
absolutely.
the family.
Yeah. I'm in a little mourning right now because Italy got eliminated.
Well, I was going to say,
and I probably should have. I was thinking about not wearing this because I'm embarrassed.
I appreciate you wearing that
yes,
because no matter what, they're your team.
You support them, but I mean, they haven't made the last 2 World Cups, right? They bowed out. The U.S. is having obviously their issues, right? And I think Berhalter is going to be gone soon. They talk about Jurgen Klopp.
I know
Jurgen Klopp from Liverpool being, my brother actually played with Greg Berhalter and Jesse Marsh, and Jesse Marsh is doing fantastic with Canada, right? And they snubbed him, I think, is what I heard.
U.S. did.
Yeah, right.
100% they snubbed him. Canada hired him in fucking May. I just realized they hired him in May.
They hired him in May, yeah.
Like, that whole 6 months where Berhalter wasn't the coach, that was obviously before,
there's a lot of drama, that was Claudio Reyna, Gio Reyna drama, right? And I remember playing against Claudio Reyna one time. He was a great player, but I feel like there's just so much infiltration with a lot of BS in that, the pay to play and all that. I mean, listen,
always
you need to bring it back down to the basics and say there's a lot. I mean, we're 380 million people. How can we not have a phenomenal
100%? And then you have a place like Slovenia with like 6 million people or something that are making the second round of the Euros
because they have a simple life. They're not overstimulated by white noise, right?
No, 100%. And soccer has completely got insane. I mean,
it has.
And my kids didn't play, which I don't. It's fine by me that they never did.
Yeah, and I've got one of my 3 playing. That's it, and that's fine. I mean, you want them to be happy and doing what they want to do, right?
Absolutely. You push them whatever they want to do.
Right.
Do something. That's all I care.
But soccer, to me, I mean, I made great friends. I've had job opportunities through soccer.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've got to see a lot of it. We were talking earlier about
so much
when
more
I travel
positive.
for work. I mean, I go see games in Europe. Like Bayern Munich, I was telling you I saw the game with Robert Lewandowski. He scored 5 goals in 9 minutes. I was Champions
League game. Everyone's favorite Polak who can't get out of any sort of bracket.
Oh my God, I feel bad for them. Poland, they underperform all the time. But that's where Italy is right now. But getting back to Berhalter, I think that they may need to make a change. It's very political there, and he's not. The sign of a good coach is somebody who can come in and change the strategy during the game and make a difference. And that doesn't happen.
And, and I did. I went on a little tirade in the mid-season review about Jesse Marsch. And the reason I did was, one, I remember meeting him. I was going to, I think it was Dallas when I was on the regional team. And Kassar was the year older, but so we're both going to the same place. We're at the airport. And he knew Jesse Marsch from playing on the regional team. So
right. They all played on the under 20. Yeah. My brother.
Under 20 Nash. That's right. Yeah, Marsch was on the under 20
Kerry Zavagnin.
That's how I ended up playing with Mazanov and those guys on that Marauders team. Because Kassar was going to the World Cup. Yeah. So I was like 16 playing with Mazanov and Joel Russell.
Yeah, Joel Russell. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
he was in the 72s for a little while too.
Yeah, absolutely. And one, I remember just the 20 minutes I talked to Jesse Marsch that day. And like sometimes you just feel like a positive energy. Yeah. I'm like, I remember that dude. Like, I met him for 20 minutes. Why should I remember him?
Right.
And then I remember seeing, like, a year ago that he's been, like, coaching in first, like, the Austrian Bundesliga, then, like, the German.
Then he was in EPL for a while.
Yeah. Right, and I'm like, holy shit, I know that guy.
Right, yeah.
And then I'm seeing all this drama with Berhalter, and then they're like, he's not under contract. I'm like, why don't you go get him? Yeah. And I said this on the video, and people were like, oh, he would never come. Well, did you fucking ask him?
Yeah.
Did you, and then find out that in May, Canada just hired him?
Yeah.
So this is like his 3rd and 4th and 6th game or whatever.
It is.
This tournament, and they're in the fucking semis.
He's done well. I mean, they played a great game against Argentina in the opener.
I thought they did too.
They did really well,
I thought they did. They competed in Argentina and got one in like the 70th minute to make it 2-0.
Sure. But then they played well against Venezuela. I mean, they went to a shootout and won, but I still think
that's kind of a cheesy goal. They should have won in real time.
Yeah, they had chances.
They had chances. Shouldn't have gave that one.
They
up.
had chances.
Still, they won it when they needed to.
But it's embarrassing, from a U.S. perspective, to show so poorly, and as the Italian. So I'm in mourning right now.
No, absolutely. I do like that you are because they're your team. The U.S. is still my team, but it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
And then to be coming up on the World Cup, and where the fuck are we at?
Yeah, and how many more competitive games you're going to get? Maybe you get the Gold Cup next year, but you don't have a whole lot more.
And that's what they said. For the next year, there's no competitive soccer whatsoever.
This was it. This was the test, right? And I think it's a fail, unfortunately.
Right, because you have a lot of talent, but where is it? Is it really showing up?
Yeah. So is the system broken? I think to an extent it is.
Wait, what the hell's that? So, one, you definitely monopolized all your time today.
Not at all.
Other people want to see you upstairs. I couldn't thank you more than being here.
My pleasure.
Taking time away from your vacation, getting here.
Maybe next year we can do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
We do have, I think it's 4 2-timers and 1 3-timer now.
What's that? Oh, really?
I guess.
Oh, nice.
So Avery, my son, is a 2-timer along with Nathan Shack and my brother-in-law John Doran. Yeah. Nathan and John both were on our tailgate at Sasanta. And then John Shack, who is an old Varner guy as well, was a year younger than you.
Yeah. But we played on barter together because I could play the younger.
Yeah.
Morris played for Morris, and he's our only 3-timer.
That's awesome. Well,
he was on season 1, season 2 with his son Nathan, and they were both on the Sassanta tailgates.
Well, I appreciate what you guys are doing. I think you guys are doing a great job, and like I said, there's no time like now.
No, and you know what? We do it because we love it.
Yeah, 100%.
And it seems like there's some people out there that like it too.
There are.
Make sure you check out our socials, YouTube channel. You can check out the video of our podcast, all of our videos from our shows, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads, all that shit. Check us out.
Yeah, as Kip from Napoleon Dynamite says,
peace out. Thanks, Gio.
Yeah, my pleasure, fellas.